Let's talk about a word you hear all the time, politics. We're going to completely rethink what it means. We're going to look way beyond the ballot box and find it in places you'd never expect, from your office to your kitchen. So let's start with a really simple question.
No, really, take a second. What's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it a politician at a podium? Maybe two pundits yelling at each other on TV? A voting booth? Yeah, for most of us, it's something that feels kind of distant, something other people do.
You see, we're usually fed the official story of politics. You know, it's all about elections, government, laws. But what if there's this whole other unseen story happening all around us every single day? In your office, around your dinner table, even right there on your phone. That's exactly where we're going today.
So let's just quickly touch on the version we all know. The official story is that traditional, kind of limited view of politics. It's the stuff that happens in capitals with political parties and big formal institutions.
And this is the core of it, right? We're taught that politics is this big, complicated thing that happens out there. It's handled by professionals, and we just check in every few years to vote. It's totally separate from our actual day-to-day lives.
But here's the big question. What if that official story isn't the whole story? What if it's just the tip of the iceberg, and the real, powerful stuff is happening just beneath the surface, all the time?
And that brings us to this much bigger and frankly more exciting idea, the politics of everything. This is a way of seeing the world where political dynamics are playing out in the most ordinary, mundane moments of our lives.
This definition right here is the absolute key. Everyday politics is all about seeing that power isn't just about who's president. It's about who gets to speak in a meeting at work. It's about who decides what's for dinner. It's about power being constantly negotiated, challenged, and reinforced in all of our normal routines.
So this idea really breaks down into 4 parts. First is zooms way in on the small stuff, those tiny interactions. It also puts a spotlight on our own personal ability to push back, our agency. It makes us see all those informal power dynamics. And finally, it connects all these tiny daily actions to the big, broad political structures out there.
Okay, so how do we actually start seeing this hidden world? Well, we need some tools. And I want you to think of these next 4 ideas not as some dry academic theories, but as 4 powerful lenses, like a new set of glasses, that will help you see everyday politics with total clarity.
We're going to borrow these lenses from 4 major thinkers: Foucault, Lefebvre, Scott, and Bourdieu. Each one gives us a really unique and fascinating way to understand how power works in our lives. Let's start with Foucault.
Our first lens comes from Michel Foucault. He completely flipped the script on power. He argued it's not something a king or a government just has. Instead, it's more like a web of relationships that runs through everything in society. It's not just at the top, it's absolutely everywhere.
And Foucault gave us this incredible concept he called biopower. This is how power gets really, really personal. It's all the ways society shapes our behaviors, our health choices, what we're supposed to want, our very identities. I mean, think about public health campaigns or even beauty standards. That's biopower right there.
Okay, so if Foucault saw power working on our bodies, our next thinker, Henry Lefebvre, saw it in the world around us. He said the spaces we live in, our cities, our offices, our homes, they are not neutral. They are politically charged, and they are built that way on purpose.
I mean, think about it. The way an office is designed can either encourage people to work together or keep them isolated. The layout of a public park can make certain groups feel welcome and others feel like they don't belong. Our daily routines are shaped by these spaces, and how we use them can either reinforce or challenge the power that's built right into them.
So we've got power in our bodies and power in our spaces. But what happens when people decide to push back? And that brings us to our third lens, from James Scott. He noticed that people without formal power don't always organize some big dramatic protest. A lot of the time, they use what he called weapons of the weak, these small, subtle acts of resistance.
So what are these weapons? Well, think about deliberately working just a little bit slower, or spreading gossip about an unfair boss, or maybe just quietly choosing not to follow a rule that you think is ridiculous. Scott argues that these tiny acts, when a lot of people do them, can have a massive collective impact. They're quiet, but they are so powerful.
From these huge systems of power and these small acts of resistance, our final thinker, Pierre Bourdieu, takes us to the most personal place of all, our own habits. He basically said that our background and our experiences give us this set of ingrained habits that guide everything we do and see.
He called this our habitus. It's that gut feeling, the reason why some things feel natural to us and others feel wrong. It affects how we talk, what we think is good taste, what we even dare to dream about. And this is so important. Our habitus is a political thing because it often makes us unconsciously accept and even reproduce the social hierarchies that already exist.
Okay, we have looked through all 4 lenses. Now, let's bring this all back home. We're going to move from the theory to the real world and see where this everyday politics stuff actually shows up in your life. This is where it all clicks into place. So where do we see this? Well, at work, it's not just about forming a union. It's that subtle slowdown that James Scott talked about. At home, it is the constant negotiation over who does the chores or who controls the money, a classic power struggle. At school, it's a student simply questioning what's written in a textbook. And online, it's happening every second of every day, every time we choose what to share, what to like, or what to challenge.
So yeah, we can see everyday politics pretty much everywhere once we start looking. But why does any of this matter? What's the point of changing our perspective like this? Let's just boil it all down. If you're going to remember just one thing from all of this, what should it be?
Here it is. Seeing the world this way first helps us recognize that power is literally everywhere, not just locked away in government buildings. Second, it shows us that huge social changes often start with tiny, everyday actions. And maybe most importantly, it helps us see the power, the agency that we all have. By pushing back and shaping our own little corners of the world, we are taking the very first steps to building a better, more just society, right from the ground up.
And so I want to leave you with this final thought. Now that you have these new lenses, I want you to put them on. As you go about the rest of your day, in your next conversation, at the dinner table, or as you're scrolling through your phone, just ask yourself this one question. Where will you see politics today?